Now, 2 days after the AAIB's initial report on the AI-17 crash in Ahmedabad, the Air India CEO, Campbell Wilson, has issued a detailed statement saying that the preliminary report found no mechanical or maintenance issues with the aircraft or the engines. Let me, in fact, go across to my colleague, Hina, who's been keeping a very close eye on the probe into the AI-17 crash. Hina, so Campbell Wilson, the CEO of Air India, issuing a detailed statement to his own employees. Take us through what he said, including what he's talked about the absence, or in fact the probe report raising more questions than answers at this juncture.
Well, that's right. In fact, Siddharth, what we can tell you is that almost every week a statement goes from the CEO the employees, and more attention is being paid on this particular issue, especially after the Ahmedabad plane crash, because it has also impacted the morale of the pilots, crew members, etc. Because it was, a crash of a Dreamliner that had never ever happened in the past. Like a Dreamliner had never crashed. So that's the reason why these kind of measures are being taken now. Since the report came out last weekend only, so now this particular statement has been issued by the CEO to all the employees, wherein they are trying to allay the concerns of the employees, because there are many questions that remain than us really getting answers on what really went wrong on 12th of June. So in this particular statement, he has tried to say that, he says that despite the grief, I could not be prouder of the togetherness, compassion and resilience that you all have shown during this challenging time, and most important, you care for those affected and for each other. Now, he's also said that, on one hand, of course, there were several theories and rumors, allegations, etc., sensational headlines that were being made after the plane crash, and a lot of them have got some clarity, and there is greater clarity on what perhaps happened, and there are additional questions also, he said, that have now come up. Now, here he says that instead of focusing on interpretations, he said we should also focus on the fact that the preliminary report found no mechanical or maintenance issues with the aircraft or the engines, and that all mandatory maintenance tasks had been completed. There was no issue with the quality of fuel and no abnormality with takeoff roll. The pilots had passed their mandatory pre-flight breath analyzer, and there were no observations pertaining to their medical status as well. He's also said that out of an abundance of caution and under the oversight of DGCA, every Boeing 787 aircraft operating in our fleet was checked within days of the accident, and all were found to be fit for service. Essentially, what the message he's trying to give is that the protocols are followed properly by the airline, so they should not really be worried at all at this point in time. Everything that the regulator has been asking them to do with respect to the Dreamliner following the crash, they've been following that as well. And they're also saying that preliminary report identified no cause nor made any recommendations. So he's urging everybody to avoid drawing premature conclusions as the investigation is still going on. And he also says that the airline is going to cooperate with the investigators to ensure they get all kind of support and everything they need from Air India, so that there is a thorough and a comprehensive inquiry that happens. And he also at the end is saying, Siddharth, that until a final report or cause is tabled, there will be no doubt that new round of speculations and more sensational headlines will be there. But he's giving a message that everyone should stay together, and let's not be diverted from what are top priorities, which is standing by the bereaved and those injured, working together as a team and ensuring they deliver a safe, reliable air travel experience. So in a way, trying to allay the concerns of the employees also, and giving a sense of that the airline per se has been following all protocols as being given by the regulator from time to time.
Just as a follow-up to the earlier question, Hina, he does say, unsurprisingly, it provided both greater clarity. This is the report that he's speaking of. Unsurprisingly, it provided both greater clarity and opened additional questions. However, the Air India CEO, in this particular statement, Hina, is not being drawn into a discourse over what those additional questions are. He refrains from mentioning those. This appears to be a very carefully drafted, detailed letter to his employees.
That's right. And if you recall, Siddharth, then soon after the preliminary report came out, a section of people within the country and in the world started talking about the possibility of a pilot error as to what really went wrong. Because if you see the conversation that happened between both the pilots in the cockpit just before the crash, just before they declared Mayday. Just an excerpt from that conversation has been put in this report, which made many think, can it be a pilot error? So at that point in time, when these kind of theories are being floated, allegations are being made, on possible human error in this case, the idea through this particular statement is to allay the concerns that we need to stay together. This is the time of crisis. We understand the final investigation is still going on. So this is just the preliminary finding. It should not really impact the morale of the crew members or the pilots, because the airline is following, all protocols. The way DGC asked them to do a thorough inspection of their Dreamliners post the crash, they've done that as well. So everything is fine. We are following everything to the T. So that's the message the CEO is trying to give, because, after this preliminary report also, like he also has mentioned, there are several questions, because the preliminary report hasn't really told us why the fuel switches transitioned from run to the cutoff position. They've told us what the reason behind this crash was, what stopped the supply of fuel to the engine at the nth hour, which should not have happened. But why that happened, that why still remains unanswered. So, that's exactly what he's referring to. So he's basically saying that don't look at the theories that are still floating around. Wait for the final investigation to come out instead of, pinning the blame on anybody. This is too premature. This is the message he's trying to give.
Absolutely, Hina. Many thanks for that comprehensive insight into what Campbell Wilson has said in that detailed letter. As far as the pilots are concerned, he kept it very matter of fact. He said the pilots had passed their mandatory, there were no observations pertaining to their medical status, pretty much echoing what the report had also said. Now, we turn our attention to another development, but also, of course, related to the AI-17 crash. The pilots grouping, which is ALPA India, ALPA India, mulls a legal course now to be part of the Air India plane crash probe. They basically want a seat on the table as far as the probe into this crash is concerned. ALPA India has said that it's mulling legal recourse to have its members be made part of the investigation into the Air India's Boeing 787 plane crash that took place on the 12th of June. And this is a day after alleging that the AAIB's preliminary report suggests a bias towards pilot error. Now, that was, of course, the stand that was taken by this particular pilots association. ALPA India represents over 800 pilots in India.